Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Users Podcast. This is episode 40, and I am Pegasus 187.
And this is good old Jack Botza. And little technical difficulties tonight. Chrono can't make it, and we're having a clusterfuck of a mess on Skype this evening. But regardless, we got everything up and running for the most part. And we have a guest with us tonight, and that guest is shit. Sorry, Dwayne. We like to keep things casual here, and we're kind of bullshit on the intros, and we like to keep things real casual. We're not like all radio broadcast quality. So especially by the technical difficulties. So we're kind of a
Yeah, I'll be kidding me.
we're kind of a broke ass operation. But Dwayne Richards with us this evening. How you doing, man?
Oh, I'm doing great, man.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for putting up with our shenanigans this evening. So much appreciated.
Oh, no big deal, man. There's worse things in the world.
That's true. That's true. Well, let's see. How do we start? Dwayne is, let's see, a classic arcade gamer. You might know him from certain projects and certain films. Um, let's see. Dwayne, would you rather? I mean, I hate to put you on the spot and say, "Hey, introduce yourself," but I don't want. I kind of want. I don't want to not do it justice. But to our people who might not know who you are.
Actually, well, I've been a classic game player since back in the 80s. Been in the Guinness Book of World Records many times, both in the 80s and recently in the modern time. Won the World Championships many times. Known a lot of people, both back then and now. Been in documentaries, made documentaries. Won many contests, won a lot of cash as far as this stuff goes as a hobby. And I actually still play every once in a while if I have a reason, but generally I'm more about telling other people's stories through the format of documentaries.
Very true. Very nice as well. And yes, there are certain things we can talk about. Well, first off, where can people find your current projects you're working on, such as
Um,
oh,
I got a YouTube channel, whatever like that. I keep putting stuff up for whatever like that. I started interviewing people I think 6 years ago now it's been, and I put a couple rough cuts up of a couple different documentaries. They don't have the endings in them. The DVD formats they have more material, or they have a more complete ending. So, but there's stuff up there on my channel. It's Mr. Big League Dwayne, I think it is, on YouTube. And yeah, there's probably about 6 or 7 hours worth of stuff up there.
very nice, very nice. Yeah, a lot of this stuff deals with everyone's favorite documentary, The King of Kong. And I would guess Chasing Ghosts to an extent. And Dwayne was one of the guys, like you said, he's obviously an acclaimed player, but he obviously has the insight and he knows some of these people. And let's see, I guess the easiest way to do it, or to explain this, and I've talked to Nick and Chrono, who can't be here tonight, about some of your works, and especially the stance on King of Kong and some of the miscommunications in that so-called documentary. But to be blunt, I guess it's not entirely true, is it?
Well, it's a presentation of reality that is fictitious. That's the only thing true about it. So the main characters, Walter, Bill, Steve Saunders, Brian Koo, they were all in on setting up the footage that they needed to put together, and Robert, myself, and anybody else that was in it, Todd. None of us really knew exactly what they were going for, because what they told us they were doing and what they actually did were two different things. And they had the script already figured out in mind and staged everything, around everything else that was going on at these contests and these different things they set up. And we already knew, Twin Galaxies as far as that goes, we already knew that we were back in contact with Guinness and going to be putting scores in and stuff like that. So Walter had all this stuff lined up to be able to, they pretty well had the story set up, exactly the way that they wanted. And, Steve with his crying, and Bill with his arrogance and stuff like that. All that stuff was staged. They were told what to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And I don't want to spoil too much, because I definitely want people to check out your content on your YouTube page and your DVDs, of course. But I guess for our listening audience, I just want to go over 2 points, and this is just, I guess, smoking guns, if you will, because I know people, especially in our community, they acknowledge that, the whole feud between Billy and Steve is somewhat, fabricated or whatnot. But to me, personally, there's 2 things. One of them was Tim Survey, his record being kind of omitted from history, which is evidence in the film, blatantly by a screenshot of the scoreboard of how he was kind of omitted from history, and he actually broke Billy's record from '82, and then Billy broke it back. But anyway, the whole point is like the score they were competing with. It's kind of when you compromise the integrity of Twin Galaxies by just omitting people to make a better story. If people, listeners of this podcast, we're kind of allergic to bullshit. So that's kind of that's one strike there. And the other thing is, you mentioned Billy crying, not Billy, Steve, that is, and that's just, I mean, to me, it's more offensive to omit people from history, especially when you're trying to be a respectable authority figure on world scorekeeping history. But the other thing was, and we kind of spoke about this, there's a classic Retro Gaming Expo in 2004. It was a podcast between Billy and Steve Wiebe where basically they talk, but long story short, the gist of it is, you listen to that podcast and they're interacting and whatnot, and then it goes to show when you watch King of Kong, it's far deeper than like, oh, Billy snubbed Steve walking past him in Florida. It's like, no, it's like they had talked before, and then you see Steve crying on camera, and it makes it that much more bullshit. So definitely, if anybody's interested, check out Dwayne's content, because it'll definitely just, if nothing else, enlighten people, because you can't really compete with the machine, and the wheel's going to keep turning. But the most you can do is just enlighten people on the subject.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's fair. Like, I agree with you, because the irony was I didn't know what was going on per se till after the fact, and a lot of things that they lied about, that we were trying to marginalize Steve Wiebe and stuff like that. Robert and myself, like, we never had anything like that, intentionally trying to do anything to stop him from putting scores in. But what people don't realize, and they never told you, is that Steve he just never followed the rules, and that was fundamentally one of the problems. It had nothing to do with whether Bill's score got beat or not, because obviously Tim Serby already broke it. So, like, that's all those lies that they told, trying to say that we don't take this stuff seriously or whatever like that. We do take it seriously, but the fact that Walter and Bill sold it out to make money or whatever like that with Wiebe and create this fictional story and write people out of history, that in itself is a crime. But we as a hobby, we still take it pretty seriously, and we're just doing our job in that sense, that there was no vendetta or anything crazy like that. It just, they blew that stuff out of proportion. Walter, like himself, like he never validates scores because he knows nothing about games. Only the players really care. That's why he could blow whichever the wind goes. As far as he's concerned, he doesn't give a shit as long as he gets a free lunch.
Well, that's true. I mean, I don't want to, because I don't know Walter at all personally, but I don't want to sound like I'm talking shit on him. But at the same time, I think there were even proof, like in the past, of course, even with, like, you talk about Steve Saunders, it's like when they submit false scores, it's like you use that excuse. I'm talking about Walter. Like, if you use the excuse, well, like, I didn't know, why would somebody lie about a video game score? It's like, well, that's the reason people know you, and that's the whole credibility issue. It's like, it goes back to, I don't want to harp, but it goes back to, like, compromising values, and it's just there's a whole rabbit hole there. But Nick, I don't want to leave you in the dark. Are there any questions you got that pertaining to this, I guess, classic arcades or King of Kong? Because I know you've seen King of Kong, but have you seen Chasing Ghosts?
I actually haven't.
Oh, you haven't?
No, I haven't.
Well, that'll actually be interesting to go into.
You're not missing much. It might be better off if you don't, man, because it's just like, because everything is hyperbole. Everything is over the top and exaggerated, and the thing that people don't realize is that Steve Wiebe's friend there hooked him up with Ed Cunningham and Seth Gordon, and Seth is connected in Hollywood. Ed is connected in Hollywood. Seth himself is a Yale preppy, and like he's actually he comes from a very wealthy family. He went to the same school as Bill Gates and connected with a lot of rich people. And the other thing is that he's part of a Yale secret society. Like, people don't know all this stuff. I didn't learn all this stuff till after the fact. And it explained to me how he was able to do what he was able to do, because there's no one could stop that machine, because there's so much money behind it, and they had so much money with the story. And when everything was unveiled, that it got bought up at the what's the film festival there? I can't remember, in Park City, Sundance. Yeah, Sundance. When they bought the film, they already had everybody's life rights bought and paid for before they even announced the quote unquote selling of the movie. But this stuff happened long behind the scenes, and everybody knew that they were going to get paid. I was offered, to sell my life rights or whatever like that, but I told them to fuck off. And it's just a matter of principle. Like, I don't want to be around people who are liars.
No,
so
definitely.
It's just one of those things. And so, for myself, I didn't realize, like, because they made a lot of money. Like, and everyone could come back at me and say, "Oh, he never got rich." Or I never said he got filthy rich. Or I said he made some money. Like if someone gave you $50,000 to do nothing except make up a story, and they kept sending you $20,000 checks in the mail every 6 months for the last 8 years, would you be sad? It may not make you wealthy, but it sure is nice. And you just have to pretend this is the way it is.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, they'd definitely be nice perks, but and not to harp too much, but I do want to in a sense spell this out for our listening audience, because like people know that King of Kong has been staged or it's been altered to more of a drama, but like it goes deeper than that, because what we're talking was like it's one thing to like expose a conspiracy. There's another thing to just blatant bullshit, and what I mean by that is when Dwayne, we're talking about Tim Survey. He was the guy that broke the Donkey Kong record back in like early 2000s. Okay, now in the film they don't acknowledge him at all, right? But see, the thing is he broke the record, and then Billy broke the record again. So, and even the reason I'm saying this is because in the film, it's not clever editing. I mean, there are scenes with like Brian Koo, Walter Day, Billy. They're obviously talking to the camera, like talking head segments where they say that this record has been broken in X amount of years. That the score to beat wasn't the score that Billy set in like the Time magazine shoot. I mean, there are things that they say to the camera. I mean, blatantly, that it's not editing. It's like it was like lies to support that editing. So it goes a little bit deeper than like we're just talking shit or anything like that. I mean, it's if you know what you're looking for, it's there, clear in plain sight. It's kind of a. I'm curious to see if you ever do watch it, Nick, what you'll think about it, because like a lot of people like like a big thing is like people go, "Oh, Billy snubbed Steve." It's a little bit deeper than that. So.
Yeah, well, no, but yeah, we could, we could leave that behind. Like, there's, it is what it is. But the new one that I'm in that's coming out. We talked about Man vs. Snake and the quest for 1 billion points.
Mm-hmm.
Like that it's supposed to be coming out here pretty quick. So I'm looking forward to that. But that's the story about the first 1 billion point score on a video game, and it's kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm. No, different. Oh, go ahead, Dwayne.
Well, and the funny thing about that, like, I talked to you about this before, but one of the problems I had, because they don't, like the website is manvssnake.com, and they have a trailer, and they give you this idea about this 1 billion point score, but, not to give it all away or whatever like that, but what happened to me was I actually broke the score. And what happened was, I submitted my score to Twin Galaxies because, that's what you do or whatever, but I didn't know there was something wrong with my board. And so what happened was the documentary crew, they actually waited before they actually finished the documentary, because they started the thing about 6 years ago, and they let it ride, which I was grateful for. But like they told me here just before they finished it, was that they actually thought that I cheated. They thought there was something wrong with my board, and what happened was the nibbler worm regenerated itself quicker, so it looked like I could play my game faster. So I actually got 1 billion points like in 37 hours or 38 hours, whatever. Like, it was just an incredible pace. No one, like when Tim first did it, was like 42 hours or something like that. So they thought I altered the board or I cheated, and they never really told me that directly. That's what they were looking for, or that's what they were suspecting, and. They kept asking me all these questions about it or whatever. Like, I couldn't figure out what the fuck they were, like, because I was dealing with all this other stuff or whatever like that, and I was bothered by it. But I sent them my board, and they found out it wasn't me. I never did anything. What happened was there was a defect with my board. There was something wrong with one of the processors. So, it's how you deal with this stuff. And they kept asking me point blank, like, do you have anything you want to admit? And because Walter, they did the same thing with Walter, because they caught Walter in quite a few lies that he had to backtrack on, and he had to, show his character. And again, because they made Enrico's and Eddie's score disappear too. It's the same story in a different format. Walter could promote himself with Tim McVeigh being there in Ottumwa, and they kept celebrating Tim McVeigh Day, or whatever like that, so Walter could promote himself. But Tim's score got beat 6 months later, and they didn't want really anybody to know. And there was so much evidence. They literally went over to Italy to check this stuff out, and they found all the proof. But even then, still, they let it go and didn't tell anybody about Enrico's score. And and then after they brought all this proof, Walter had to answer the question, well, why did you ignore Enrico's score, or say, or remove Enrico's score when you had his score as being true and legitimate? So this stuff happens all the time. And it's people really don't know Walter or whatever like that, and the players themselves, we want to try and maintain integrity, because you're playing against your friends, you're playing against the new people in the community, whatever like that. You want to make sure the scores are legitimate. You're not chasing ghosts or chasing a bogus score, eh? But Walter just doesn't give a shit. He uses everything to his advantage to promote himself. And these stories where Twin Galaxies has been around for 30 years or 30 plus years, it hasn't. It shut down in 1983, and then the scoreboard itself barely kept up to 86. And then the players took it over for another 4 or 5 years, and then basically there was punch and kick games. There weren't too many games with scores or whatever like that. And then what happened was Mark Longridge started using Maine to start recording scores, and it was back in 1997 when Walter got back involved. But again, it was just it was a lot of other people, but everybody just hears his story and his lies and his bullshit. It is just it never really was him. It was always the players.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Sure.
Because you care. We care. I care about integrity. I care about a legitimate score. I know for myself, I used to chase after bogus scores, and I didn't know any better at the time, because, these things were published in magazines. You thought they were true, eh? And so, you just marveled at these people and their accomplishments, but then you find out, well, they fucking lied, or they're cheaters or whatever like that. And getting back to the point there, when Man vs. Snake was trying to accuse me of being a cheater or whatever like that, but they asked other players, and I thought, would Dwayne do that? Would Dwayne do that? And they were putting them on the spot, and they were putting me on the spot. But after they checked my board, they thought, well, no, I was telling the truth.
Mm-hmm. Well, do you think that was, I'm not saying that was staged or anything, but do you think they were trying to, because you're actually friends with Tim McVeigh, correct?
Yeah, I'm friends, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, do you think they're trying to, are you worried about, Man versus Snake? Do you think they're going to try to build that into a feud, or trying to, edit it in that sense?
Well, that's what I was concerned about, man. I don't really care now anymore. At the time, I was kind of anxious or whatever, but I realized that I know, it's just like when I told them, I know what happened. No, I didn't do this. I didn't cheat. You're accusing me, whatever, you don't understand. It's far easier for me just to go and play the game and beat the score than it is to go through all these shenanigans. And it's not even just that. Where's your honor? I have honor, and I care about doing things legitimately, so that it's like we always say, a level playing field and legitimate scores with legitimate opportunity for people to break the scores. If you're going to have a competition, or you're going to have legitimate record keeping, you have to have a level playing field for everybody, and there's no respecter of persons, but we do have to scrutinize stuff, and the hyperbole of King of Kong isn't the same thing as Man vs. Snake, because I sent them my boards. So that's one thing Steve would never do, but when they saw my boards, everything validated that I was telling the story. You can find stuff out, so and they intentionally waited to try and find out the rest of the story. They didn't want to make up a fictional story, so I got respect for the guys. They wanted to tell the truth, and they didn't want to create another King of Kong, because they talked to a lot of us in the behind the scenes, so they know all the stuff was set up, and they've seen Walter lie, so they themselves wanted to make sure they had a legitimate story.
True. Well, let's see. Yeah, Man vs. Snake. For those that don't know, I'll post a link to the trailer in the description. Hopefully, it'll be out later this year. But basically, it revolves around a game called Nibbler, which, for the most part, is, I guess, would you say it's kind of a blend of Pac-Man and Snake. And when I say Snake, I'm referring to like most people would know it famous from like being from old Nokia cell phones, which I'm glad it's
The
making.
indestructible
that's it.
Nokia phone.
Which I'm glad it's like making a resurgence because like even if you go back to King Kong like Donkey Kong, like you set the standard with Donkey Kong because it's one of those games with the hand-eye coordination that most a lot of gamers have played and they know how difficult it is, but most players haven't reached past a handful of boards. So you know the difficulty and you know the acclaim of being successful at that game. Snake's kind of the same way because back in the mid 2000s, early 2000s, Snake, mainly I'm saying my first exposure, as a cell phone game, but it was a damn good cell phone game. And it kind of goes through like if you know the template of what you're playing, you can appreciate it being played at a higher level. But Dwayne, can you kind of explain Nibbler and the whole billion point goal and everything?
Yeah. What it is, it's man versus machine, where that's the only game that has the scoring pace where you can legitimately play a billion point score, and it actually holds 999,990. So it rolls over at a billion. And that was one of the things that people were talking about. Well, that could actually be done. And Thomas Aki was this original guy that came up with the idea, and then he played it at Twin Galaxies back in the Tacoma back in the 80s, and Tim saw him play, and Tim was local, so Tim tried it, and he was the first one to do it. And like what it is, you're right, it's like a Pac-Man game. What the deal is, it's the endurance. It's because the boards start repeating, and it's just a test of will and a test of endurance to be able to keep going as the score gets higher, and you keep at it hour after hour after hour, and then like it hurts, like it literally hurts. Your body starts hurting, your arm hurts so bad, your neck hurts so bad, your back hurts so bad, and like it's a physically enduring challenge that at the same time, and the game actually is fast. People don't realize how fast it is when they try and play it. And you can keep getting free men, but it has a threshold where it doesn't have a kill screen. But what it does is if you roll your men past 128, if you get man 129, it won't give you any more free men, so you're not killing your game off. So you have to make sure that you don't roll your men, and so at points when you build up so many men, you got to kill some off, and you just got to keep watching, make sure your men don't roll over, make sure you don't lose your men. And the thing that's for myself, like I actually. Like it was painful. Like it was actually when I did it, regardless of whatever happened with the board or whatever like that, I had no idea. But when I did it, man, it was like one of the most exhilarating feelings I had, because right to the bitter end, like you could not lose concentration, or you had to focus, and you had to make sure, like, because there was a point when it was up around 990 some million where I was out of men. I only had one man, and I just struggled to get over the top. And I was like swearing at the machine. I was like, "You fucking bitch! All this time, and you're gonna fucking kill me!" Because I got into this false sense of confidence. It was like this peace and this calm or whatever. Of like, there's no fucking way I'm gonna do it. And then I thought, like, I fucking punched the game. I swear, "You fucking bitch! You're trying to kill me!" I had to focus just to take it over the top, and I ended up with like I beat Tim's score and I beat Enrico's score, and then. But then when they found out that there was a problem with my board, I just pulled it down. But just a billion point effort, man. It's hard, and it's definitely a legitimate accomplishment as far as I'm concerned.
Oh yeah, definitely legitimate. Because like I said, people. I mean, after the film and once they watch the trailer, when they become more familiar with Nibbler, if they aren't already, they'll realize how fast it is. And the game, I'm sure, as it progresses, it only gets faster and tougher. Is there ever like a slowdown point? Because you're talking marathon runs, and especially at the speed I've seen, I don't see how you fucking do it, man.
Well, it doesn't slow down. It stays that fast, and that's why your armor is so fast, because you have to make all these quick turns, and your arm is ready to fall off by the time you're done. It's so painful, like because by the time you get to half a billion or 500 million, that's about 24 hours, about 20 hours. You're like it's just pain all the way through. And we call it death in slow motion. Like like when you're playing the game, you know how many men you got, you know what your score is, you know what your time is, and you're asking yourself, like, that's what happens. Like, it's death in slow motion. Do you have enough to get it over the top? And you know before you even if you just played it out, like you either know you're going to be able to do it, or you know you're not going to be able to do it. And the documentary guys would get mad at us because we'd quit. Or we just let it die or whatever, and because we knew, like we knew that all things considered, we weren't going to be able to do because we just didn't feel like we were going to have the fortitude to keep at it. Like something like it just, and so like we just let it die. Like we stopped at 600 million or whatever, like or 700 million or 800 million. So why don't you try and struggle it out? It's like no, you can tell. Like you already know, like it's not going to happen. And so we call that death in slow motion. And just like it, when people try their first time, like it's very rare that someone will be able to do it on their first time because you're like, they were talking as well, like when you're playing that long, like Tim and I both hallucinated at times we were playing that game, and it's just like, it gets so long when you're playing, you start freaking out, and it's just like you got to keep your wits about you. So that was one thing they were looking at. Doing some animation of us freaking out when we were playing the games to add that to the part of the documentary story. So I'm looking forward to it. Like Tim, when he did it, he literally thought he was a vacuum cleaner going around picking up crumbs.
Nice. No, well, not nice,
Yeah.
but very interesting. But
Oh, it's funny.
I can only imagine, man. But let me ask you this, because like you said, this is like a marathon, and like to get that billion points, like it takes like 40 plus hours, right?
It's 40. It's about 40 hours you got to play, and then Rick Carter, the guy who's got the world record right now, like he is just his gameplay is, I can't stand watching him play. It's so painfully slow. But his technique isn't necessarily speed. He's familiar with playing games for like 60 plus hours, so he'll stay up for 60 hours, and his point scoring pace would be like 15 or 17 million or whatever, and so he'll play duration. Where Tim and I, we like to play speed. If Tim and I played the same amount of time that Rick plays with the way that we play, like we'd be about 200-300 million higher than him. So I actually think Tim's a better player, even though Tim doesn't have the record right now. But Tim is a far better player. Like I think Tim's a better player than I am. Like as far as his knowledge of the game and his skill, some of his patterns are like just beautiful to watch. So and that's part of it too. Like when you're good at a game, it's like it's not just limping through whatever like that. But you want to take it to the next level where your gameplay is eloquent or skillful or whatever like that, not just sort of slap hazard. And Tim has that skill level, and I enjoy watching him play.
I'm glad you mentioned that because in games in general, especially like this, like it is when you see that top caliber play, it is when you see it, it's like a finesse to it. You can even appreciate it as a viewer just watching it. But let me ask you this, because I'm not sure if the documentary will cover this, but since this is, like you just said, around 40 hours during these marathons, like how do breaks work? I mean, like are you allotted a certain amount of time, and like how would they, if you are, hopefully hopefully you're not playing 40 straight hours, but if you do get breaks, like how does the game, are they able to pause it, or how does all the, I guess, breaks work in general in marathons?
Okay, well, see, that's the problem with Nibbler. Nibbler is a harsh mistress. She doesn't give you any breaks. There's no hiding spot or anything like that, and so like it takes about maybe 20-25 seconds for you to lose a man. So like if you have to run to the can, like you can lose like 20 or 30 men. Mm-hmm. So it's you have to like you're basically like that's why I call it death in slow motion, because you're whether you like it or not, you're chained to that machine. You can stop and have a snack or whatever like that and lose a few men, but any moment you take a break, you lose men, and and it gets to the point there where if you lose too many, like you're not going to be able to fight it back, and then like I say, it's inevitable, you're going to die, because when you're playing it after like the first day is easy, like you can keep your men up, 100 plus men, 500 men is easy, but it just starts, the skill level starts petering off, and it's just diminishing returns, and the pain and everything else. So it's death in slow motion. It's just like, so you're chained to that damn thing.
Gee, I didn't know it was that hard. Shit.
Yeah, no, it's that's the thing. Like other games, you can build up enough men, or there's hiding spots or different things like where you can take a bit of a break. Where like you basically like you're chained to that thing, and like even if you did take a hot 20-minute break, you could take like I think the most you could ever take is maybe half an hour at the most. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, you'd run all your men down, and it'd be very difficult. But it's like it just isn't worth it. You just gotta, like, the sooner you get it over with, the sooner the pain will stop. So you just gotta go through with it. Like it's such a physically trying experience because you get blisters on your hands, and your fingers hurt so bad, and that's the thing. Like if your skin starts tearing, like it's over. That joystick will eat your hand up. and it takes weeks for your hand to heal.
Wow.
I can only imagine, man. Shit. But it is, I mean, it is, I mean, I was always curious about that because I didn't know if there was some kind of way they would pause the machine, which, that could spell foul play, but it is, I don't want to say it's comforting to know that you are making sacrifices by losing actual lives in the game, but then again, like you said, I mean, you're chained to the machine. Luckily, you're able to build up an amount of extra lives to make those sacrifices, but still, man, that's still a lot of concentration in a span of like 2 days.
Yeah, no, it's wearisome. Yeah, no, it's exactly like that's the thing with marathoning is not very easy at all. Like, there's more and more people are trying to give it an effort there, but it's like, yeah, but usually once people are starting into that second or third day, it's like they usually start freaking out in some way, shape, or form by hallucinating. It's very hard to keep your mind from wandering. It's funny when you're not the one doing it though.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah. No, but actually, I just thought I mentioned to you as well. Like, I'm actually working on a documentary about the Ironman marathon contest from back in the '80s, and looking at organizing something. And as well, I'm working on a Missile Command documentary right now, and filling some of the background on that.
yeah, man. Whatever you can share about that. I know I don't want to put you on the spot, but definitely whatever you're willing to say, man. Let us know, man. You did mention that is the
Well,
missile
the way things
command.
are working out, like I'm actually I'm looking at organizing a big Robotron in this Pac-Man contest, and I'm going to have organize a reunion at the Robotron contest. The way things are shaping up, but the Missile Command documentary, I'm actually almost done, and I think for anybody who has seen King of Kong or Chasing Ghosts, they'll know who Roy Shope is,
Oh,
Mr. Awesome, and like I met that guy, I met that guy back in the '80s, and I know all the stuff that happened with his score and stuff like that, and so part of that stuff is going to be exposed, and some of the shenanigans, like again, like it's just. I hate to, be the one who always spills the beans or whatever like that, but, when you're around, you see this shit. But what happened was, like, Roy actually was right. There was actually, about the settings of the trackball they used to complain about. Like, I actually did the research on this stuff and found out what happened, that there was a mistake in the Atari manuals where they changed the setting on the trackball, and so the trackball plays faster. And that's what all these new people are playing, and that's got a lot of people pissed off because, they didn't want Roy to be right or whatever necessarily, or that they don't play the game the other way. And Twin Galaxies never really did enough research because they made all these changes and choices back in 1980 before Twin Galaxies even existed, and they never would have had access to the manuals or never would have, and I just lucked out where I found out I met people that actually had all the documentation so I could find out the truth of the matter. But there was a gentleman from Maine, a guy named Jeff Blair, who's a tremendous player. He actually he should be the one who gets credit for the world record, but everybody sort of doesn't really want to talk about what happened with these hit switch settings, and he actually was the first one to roll the levels on. Like, he plays on the tournament settings with 6 cities and no free cities, and he was the first one to actually roll the levels. And one of the other players is trying to take credit for that when he knew that. And it's just another one of these things where, if you didn't know, you would believe what they tell you, but it's just another scandal where people want to get credit for something they don't legitimately have a reason to get credit for. But if you don't know, you'd be impressed. But it just speaks to character, and really, like, if you're going to get credit for a video game score, it doesn't really mean very much, but it means even less when you actually don't tell the truth. That's what I find. I find there's a lot of narcissistic and mentally ill people. Like, somehow they have these crazy delusions where they're going to be wealthy or be a ladies' man or whatever like that for getting the highest score on Atari 2600, like Kaboom or whatever. I'm like, dude, like, you guys are crazy.
well, I mean, that's yeah. I mean, it's like I said, it's all about compromising values. Like you said, I'm glad at least, like you said, you're not gonna be able to compete with the machine, but at least the truth's out there, because I just don't see how people can just keep getting hand-fed bullshit when it's as a gamer, this is a hobby, we like it, we're passionate about it, but you got to look past, the smoke screen. If it's bullshit, it's bullshit. Don't believe everything you hear. Or at least, especially, I don't see how these people, they play up to these egos when they know. The sad thing is, behind the ego, it's just more bullshit. It's not really up that caliber. But, well, let me ask you this real quick, because I don't want to spoil anything. I don't want to pry too deep. I'm looking forward to this Missile Command documentary you got coming out. But let me ask you this about old Mr. Awesome. Have you ever read or seen his comic book?
No, that's the biggest myth in the world. It's like he's awesome, but we don't know why.
From what I've seen so far, the little clip is, I think it might have been in Chasing Ghosts, but it's masqueraded as a comic book, but it looks like a straight porn comic. I'm not sure.
Well, let me explain that. See, I'll tell you this. Like, I'm looking forward to explaining this stuff because people you know how he says, "Oh, those losers, they couldn't get laid in a whorehouse with $100 bills in their hands or whatever." Have you ever heard him say that bullshit?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, well, because that was the thing. Like, he actually, he's one of these crazy people. He's from Los Angeles, and so he's starstruck, and so he actually wanted to become rich and famous in Hollywood or whatever, and that's part of his story, and he's crazy because of it. So what he did was he took steroids and he lifted weights so he could become like this physical specimen or whatever. God's gift to women. Yeah. And then, but what he did was, this is what people don't know, and this is why I find it so stupid. It's ridiculous, and he doesn't recognize how insane he is. So he figured, like, this is his strategy on how to get women: pose naked in Playgirl magazine and put your telephone number in there so that they can call you. Okay, so he did that. He literally did that. And so and he tells his story, like, and it's so insane. It's like, on the one hand, I think it's support for that the Illuminati is real in Hollywood, or on the other side, it shows how insane he is. So he tells everybody, okay, yeah, he got all these calls, and he got these telephone calls from these gay men in Hollywood who wanted to give him a blowjob. And he minimized. He said, "Well, yeah, there were some ladies that called or whatever." And he goes, "Well, yeah, sure they were," but because he always talks about these Hollywood guys, and so he was actually on Howard Stern here recently, and he was talking about this stuff, and it's like, and Howard's going, "Well, doesn't that make you gay?" And he goes, "No." He goes, "Well, so you're trying to tell me that these guys give you a blowjob?" And he goes, "Yeah, and that doesn't make you gay?" He goes, "No," and then he goes, "Well," Howard goes, "Well, were you sexually aroused?" He goes, "Oh, yeah." And that doesn't make you gay. No, it doesn't. And I thought, are you a moron? It's like, you fool. It's just like, and his point is, he goes, "Well, what the hell is the point of this?" And he goes, "Oh, I just wanted to warn all these people that if they try to make it in Hollywood, that's what they have to expect. These gay guys will want to give them a blowjob or the casting couch or whatever like that." I thought, you're a fool. And it's like, and the whole thing with that comic book deal there, you notice that picture on, like, he's had that picture for everything back in the 80s, and he was promising this comic book like 30 years ago, and the cover there, like, because what he did was, he has him dressed like Dapper Dan, there, like a sailor man, there in his hat or whatever, and then he's got Kitty Nabat or whatever name is, that famous porn star from back in the year with the big boobs. He's sitting out in front of a Rolls Royce or whatever like that, and he paid to have that picture staged.
Oh yeah, I put together he paid for that model, definitely.
Yeah, and that's, and so he's been trying to promote this comic book that doesn't exist and why he's awesome, and it's never happened. I think the thing is he's held off on it because he doesn't want to admit that he's gay.
It's funny you bring that up because actually I'm going to try my damnedest to find it. I'm pretty sure there's a clip on YouTube back from the 80s of him, in his Mr. Awesome uniform or whatever, and talking about the Playgirl having the number in there.
Yeah, it's there. Yeah, it's because they showed that stuff. They showed that stuff in Chasing Ghosts as well. You'll be able to, he did that originally. That was stuff he did by himself. It wasn't from the 80s. It was something later on. But he actually made that, or someone made a movie about him or something. That's what he tells people. And with him with his costume on there, like, it's like him and Bill, like Bill Mitchell. Like, these guys are crazy because the thing is, like, they have to wear the same clothes so they can, like, it's like their quote unquote superhero costume or whatever, so people can recognize them as heroes or whatever like that. And I just laugh. It's like, you're not heroic. You guys are frauds.
No, that's the thing. And see, I can say this as an American, since you're Canadian, Dwayne. It's like Billy Mitchell. You know, people can think I'm hating on him or whatever, but either way you look at it, he really is just another American embarrassment. Because if he is like as great as he claims to be, you know that the truth might not be there. But then even to like casual onlookers, people who don't even give a shit about video games, they don't care about the perfect Pac-Man. They just see him as another arrogant asshole in a USA tie. You know, it's like it's like the cartoon character or whatever. But anyway, I don't want to harp on that. But since you did mention that again, and you mentioned the life rights earlier, is there any word? Are they actually going to remake or do a remake of King of Kong? Because I'd heard that for a while. And
no, it's actually what happened last time. Because the thing is, this is what happens, and this is how the story keeps getting covered up. Is that every time Seth Gordon makes a new movie as a director, that's one of the first things that the media asks him about, because his claim to fame was he was the one who was the editor or director of King of Kong or whatever like that, and led him become this big Hollywood director. So the last I heard, like within the last year, they actually had another screenplay writer work on the story. You know, and that tells me that Bill and Steve Wiebe and Walter and all these fuckers are still getting checks in the mail. Because I actually have copies of Bill and Steve Saunders' contracts that they sold, eh? Mm-hmm. I mean that they signed and stuff. And so I know how much money they were supposed to get, but they kept extending it. It's like they just kept extending it. So Bill and Walter and Steve Wiebe but you know what the sad part is? Because there were two different types of contracts that the King of Kong guys signed when they were buying life rights. And Brian Koo was one of these persons that never got money up front. He thought he was going to be rich and famous and his life was going to change. And it's like he ended up becoming the biggest loser in the world because they used to spit him out. He was totally manipulated, and he has no friends. And he never got any money from that. Everybody thinks he's a big loser saying kill screen coming up or whatever like that. But the thing, I think I mentioned that to you, is that at that time, they did the same thing to me, and I thank God every day that they never chose Miss Pac-Man as the story and to make me look like a moron. So, talking about Abner's kill scenes on Miss Pac-Man or whatever like that, because most people in the hobby have never seen that type of stuff with these world-class players, eh? And so, like, they used Brian Q tremendously, like, and he acted out his part there, and everybody thinks he's just as much or bigger an asshole than Bill. Like Bill was an asshole, but Brian Q is mentally ill.
It's a shame because like I said, back to those talking heads, especially with him, there's obvious evidence that he lied, and plus they were trying to promote him as being like the third best player in the world. Now
that wasn't true. Yeah, no, it wasn't. Well, yeah, he's Bill's protege. He's like he can't get his lips off Bill's cock. He's like or licking his ass or whatever like that. It's just ridiculous. Like, and that was the thing. Like, that's what Bill does. He surrounds himself around people that actually. They can be the butt end of his jokes, and that's the kind of person he is. Like, he has to constantly put people down in order to build himself up.
Since you didn't sign your life rights, I mean, because you were in King of Kong, you were in a couple scenes, and luckily they didn't twist or mold you into another character. But if they do the remake, since you didn't sign, I mean, they're not allowed to portray you in any sense, are they? Even though you were there.
No, not at all. No, not at all. And well, that was the thing too. Like, but that's the other thing that people don't realize, because I actually spoke out about this stuff. They cut that film down. They cut it down every time they were showing in a film festival. They kept cutting stuff down and cutting people out and cutting more scenes with me out because they didn't want anybody to know anything about me. And then what they did, they actually took my name off the listing of the cast for quite a while off the Internet Movie Database, and anything else that was in there, they actually just destroyed my record. I actually got it some of the stuff put back up or whatever like that. But when I talk to a few people, because like when you have stuff up on the Internet Movie Database, it takes a little bit of effort to actually get your shit removed. Like they didn't want anybody to know anything about me. Because the other thing too is that both Chasing Ghosts and King of Kong, well, like when they interviewed me as a player or whatever like that, they asked everybody, so well, who's the best player? They said me. These two documentaries, they interviewed me as the best classical gaming player of all time, and that's a story that they didn't want to tell. And see, that's what people don't realize. It's not as if anybody who knows anything about this, who's in the hobby or whatever like that, like, everybody knows who I am and everybody knows the type of person I am. Like, what you see is what you get. And I don't change. I'm just this way. Like, I have respect for people who can play, and I treat them with respect and appreciate the fact, man, if they can fucking play and they can do something I can, man, I just like, man, you're fucking good. Like, I have no problem saying who's better than me because, like, fuck, man, some of these guys are good.
Well, yeah, look, that brings me up. Let me ask you this, Dwayne, because, like you said, they obviously cut you out of the film and stuff like this, and you are known as a great player. But like, what are some of you? Because obviously back in the '80s, and then you made like a resurgence in the 2000s. You came back. I mean, you won Video Game Player of the Year. But like, what are some of the, I guess, records you hold or have held, or basically like, what are some of your favorite, I guess, classic arcades? I know you're not into the console stuff, but like, what are some of these records that you held, or like, what did you win in those competitions? Or basically, tell us the shit that they cut out of these films about, you know.
Well, it's just the thing is, like, and that's the thing you're going to find too. Like, if Walter and Bill would tell the truth, like Bill would say, and he's told me this personally, like, there is no one who knows more about how to play classic video games than you do.
Mm-hmm.
And then Walter, like, he, you know, if he's honest, that was the one thing with the Man versus Snake stuff. They said, you know, do you have anything to say or whatever like that? And like, they were trying to tell me that, oh, Walter wants to be friends and all this other stuff. And he said, oh, no, because like the thing, Walter will tell you that, one, that Dwayne is the best player that he's ever seen play, and two, that he's also one of the smartest people that I've ever known. But that's the thing. It's just the difference between me and Walter and Bill or whatever is like that. It's just like, I can't stand liars. And that was why they didn't tell me about it being set up the way that it was. Because both Walter and Bill, you know, when we were talking, like, Bill told me there were some things he regretted and, you know, he didn't really want to go into. Because Bill and I, like, I still consider Bill a friend or whatever, like, we're not very close anymore, and obviously, like, we're not best buddies or whatever like that, but, you know, we share some really interesting things or whatever, and I give him the benefit of the doubt. Like, if he wants to come back to reality and be friends or whatever, I got no problem with that. But Walter he just can't stop lying. He gets on my nerves. I just can't stand it. So, but as far as gameplay and stuff like that, like, I've been in the Guinness Book of World Records a number of times. Like, but my favorite game of all time is Robotron. I love playing Robotron. I think that's the best game ever made. And like, because I can play hundreds and hundreds of games. And there's lots of games that I could go for the world record on, but I just don't bother. There's really no point, you know. Because I learned a long time ago, like, for me, it was man versus machine, not man versus people, or trying to beat my friends or whatever like that. Because it's like one of those things where the mystique of the game isn't the same if you just are trying to be the center of attention and go beat that game just so you can say you're better than someone else. I like having people that are better at games and meeting, and I like having friends that I can enjoy watching, sit back and relax and play. And like, it's one of those things where it's a mutual respect society where, you know, people like to watch me play certain games or whatever like that, or share some stuff with them and encourage them or give them some ideas for tips or whatever like that. But at the same time, man, I always love watching other people play, man, just because I marvel at, you know, somebody else doing something I can't do. It's just like, man, that's awesome.
Nice. Yeah, Robotron definitely is. I finally got to play that in Portland last year because I'd never actually played a cab. Because growing up, for the most part, the closest thing was like Smash TV, which I've always loved that.
Yeah.
But Robotron itself, in fact, It's fucking hard as shit. I mean, I'm not great at it, but it kind of kicked my ass for a little bit. But it's just that frantic speed. You know, it's just one of those you can always go back to. It's like a loyal, you know.
Oh, it's never the same twice, and and the cool thing about that, like, to me, it's like that is a video game where it's like the mutant human is like trying to save the human race from the machines.
A topic that's always relevant.
Yeah, I know it's like, because even some people were joking about it, but you know, like, I think that's where like, I heard a rumor a while back, like, 'cause somebody was playing that game back in the 80s, like, that's sort of where they got the idea for the Terminator movies. That cyborg man or whatever like that trying to destroy the human race or whatever. So it's I know everybody who has ever played that game, like, they think it's one of the best games ever made, if not the best. Like, as far as gameplay, strategy, hardness, like, it's just a great game.
Definitely. Nick, are you still there?
Yeah.
So sorry to keep you in the dark, man. But...
I know. I'm just fucking listening to this conversation.
Hey, Dwayne, I don't want to keep harping on King of Kong, but there is one question I got to ask you, and I could only ask you because I could only get the honest truth from a person like you. But and let me explain what I'm asking though. But basically, did you have a chance to meet Doris Day during any of the
Oh, Doris,
filming?
yeah.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, yeah, I know Doris, yeah.
Was she? She seemed like a sweetheart. You know, unfortunately she passed. But I was just going to ask if there any way that you knew how much she was in on it. And the only reason I asked this is because to me, this is back to the first time I watched King of Kong. One of the most insulting things to me as a viewer was the fact that Billy Mitchell sent her to Fun Spot, and the whole underlining about you basically lose your luggage, you lose your life, but don't lose the tape. You know, the scarce tape that
Yeah.
the disciples of Billy Mitchell, you know, Brian Q's prison, you know, the cult tape that they watch. But basically, I'm just wondering because it seems like throughout the whole film that she was kind of all into Billy's bullshit, reacting to it. Because
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like Doris, she is a tremendous player, a keyboard player, and
that's what I was going to ask you. It's good
but
to
yeah,
know.
no, that stuff was staged with Doris and stuff like because she understood that like I think but she ended up dying just right after the documentary was finished or whatever like that, and there were people really negative on her, but what it was like with that tape, like that's the other thing is that whole thing was made up, and you see where he's at the airport there and he's dressed in his suit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's the one suit Bill has. He either wears his bullshit tie costume with his tight-ass jeans and his Peter Pan boots when he goes out in public, or he wears that suit. That's the suit that he got his picture with when he went to Japan to Mr. Nakamoto, because he normally doesn't wear a suit. But that whole thing was staged because the irony of that whole story, and that was made up, that Brian Koo was the one who had that Donkey Kong tape, and he was religiously guarding it with his life.
Mm-hmm.
And how that whole thing was set up was, and that's why Brian was in on it. Bill sent him that tape, the actual real tape, for him to show at Robert Mirchek's cabin for the players, in segments. So the first day we got there, Steve wasn't there. Steve Levy wasn't there, and so Brian Koo was told, because I showed some stuff on tape too for other people because I was working on Joe's 2 bounty when I won like $2,500 for doing what was required. But what happened was Brian Q was the one who was showing that tape at the thing, and he was only allowed to show this much time, and like Bill sent him some money to buy everybody pizza to get everybody gathered together, and that was before the documentary crew was there. That was before the documentary crew was there. The next day, Brian set that thing up again where he watched more of the tape, and that's when the documentary crew was there, and that's when Steve Levy showed up the next day, and we didn't even know. And then the next day, that's when Brian Q went and set up the fucking television there in the fun spot over there to watch the last part when Stevie was playing, and they set up those angles for the camera over top of where Steve was playing, and everybody watching Bill's tape, and then he's crying. Even Walter says his bullshit about the long arm of Billy Mitchell influencing things or whatever like that, and then Steve, crying because like even Bill, he's not even fucking showing up to play live or whatever. But it was that all that stuff was staged. Everybody knew Bill wasn't going to be there. No one knew Steve Levy was coming, and it just they had that stuff set up. And the same thing with the Pompano Beach stuff. No one knew Steve Levy was coming, and everybody knew Bill wasn't going to be there. And it was just, it was unfortunate. Like that was the thing. Like, if my friend John Jamshid wasn't a really nice guy, he was the one who got all the machines for that thing that they set up there in Pompano Beach. And I told him, like, don't get a Donkey Kong. And because I knew Bill wasn't going to be there, because I didn't trust those guys at that point. I knew something was wrong, but I didn't realize what it was. And, but John got the Donkey Kong machine. And fuck, when I got off the plane, I walked in there, fucking Steve Lee was sitting there on top of the fucking Donkey Kong machine and playing Donkey Kong when he wasn't even supposed to be there, and Bill wasn't supposed to be there, and my buddy wasn't supposed to get a Donkey Kong. But, Walter was in on it, and that whole thing, like, it was to set stuff up so they could make Steve Lee this fucking hero or whatever like that. And it's just like, the whole thing was a sham, because there were some close world records, some great performances. They totally ignored that stuff, and even when it was going on there, they never bothered, they just paid for us to go out there and make it look like, so they could set this thing up or whatever, and it was just a joke.
Yeah, that's unfortunate for sure, but at least, back to Dora. I mean, I'm glad that she she seemed like she knew how to react to it. But it's also good to hear that she was a legit Cubert player too. She wasn't just a pawn.
Oh no, she was a great player, good person. She's a good person. See, the other thing what was going on too, so we didn't talk about it. What happened was she was there at the Fun Spot playing as the oldest world record holder on the video game, and actually CBS Morning was there interviewing and stuff like that. And so it was a great thing for Doris, but they weren't concerned about that. They weren't concerned about her life in any way, shape, or form.
Well, going back to Florida, I guess at the end of the King of Kong, the event you're talking about, did she? I know she was there playing Cubert, and I think you were there playing Dig Dug. Did both of you beat records or or like basically what was going on? Because like is the film, the film I guess started off as like supposed to be about all retro game players, but towards the end of the film it only focused on Steve and Billy, or if Steve could break that record. But while you were there and while she was there, like what else was going on there? Did you guys succeed, or like basically what were you doing? Because the film didn't let us know.
Yeah, well, actually, what happened was Abner Ashman broke the Miss Pac-Man world record on his first game he showed up, and that was the thing. Like, and the funny thing about that, like, I found out, like, people can find out more stuff about what I found out, but like Bill thought that Abner cheated. Like, Bill was accusing Abner of cheating, and
after he
was trying to say that Abner was playing on some kind of altered Miss Pac-Man board or whatever like that. I didn't find that stuff out until after the fact, like, because he talked to Todd Rogers and he talked to my buddy John about it, the guy who brought the games or whatever, and John said, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. It's just like, Abner has nothing to do with this. I got the games from a collector, whatever, and he doesn't know anything about Abner. He doesn't know who Abner is. I don't know who Abner is. I just met him. And like, and he'd have no reason or whatever. It's just a Miss Pac-Man board. It's a legitimate Miss Pac-Man board. So yeah, there was a score. And then the other thing that happened too, like, I couldn't get the Dig Dug world record because what happened was when I was playing, I actually discovered an aberrant set of ROMs. And it's actually a set of ROMs that actually fixed the kill stream and fixed the slowdown and fixed the double kill on Dig Dug. So that was the other thing too. Like, I was the first one to actually play that game and found out that there was a different set of ROMs that solved all the bugs. And like, and Walter called that the Dwayne set of ROMs. Like, no one, and it doesn't have a kill screen on it. So there were, and then Pat LaFay, he actually broke the Frogger world record, and there was stuff going on. And the other thing, one of the things that was happening there too is that the Zookeeper world record holders were there, Sean and Jason Cram, and they were trying to get these guys all riled up so they'd like start talking smack about each other. But they said, no, this is ridiculous. Like, they're trying to make say that he'd be jealous of his brother broke his world record, or he trying to create some kind of fake rivalry or jealousy and get him to say stuff. And they were actually literally telling him, I don't want to hear that. Okay, say this. And it's like, you go, fuck no, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that about my brother because that's not true. And so he just walked away from him. So yeah, there was shit that was going on there, and like it was, like, again, it was just everything was staged. That whole point of that experience there, because it wasn't an arcade, it was just this thing that was. They didn't have any games. My buddy John had to get the games for the event, and it was just there to set it up so Steve Levy and Steve Saunders could talk to each other. And, oh, they're so wonderful, whatever. Saunders is a fucking guy. He's famous for being a liar. He can't fucking play games. And everyone's like, thinking he's such a hero, whatever, like that. And he knows how he tries to make himself self-righteous as compared to Bill, where Steve was a fucking worse liar. I think his character is far worse than Bill's. That's all he did was lie about video game scores, and then he has the nerve to come out there and try and pretend he's somebody when everybody in the community knows he's a fucking liar and can't play.
Well, yeah, especially in like Chasing Ghosts, because he's trying to put himself off as being more religious these days, correct?
Well, yeah, no, that's what I told him. Like, I said, man, you're one self-righteous fuck. You don't realize how arrogant you are. It's just like, if you're really serious about your religion, you'd stay away from this stuff and just leave it behind. Oh no, but he wanted to make money, and that was the thing with the King of Kong stuff when he was in on this stuff. Like, he's trying to get work in Hollywood. He thinks he's somebody. Really? He's doing voiceover and all this other stuff. Like, he thinks he's somebody. And I'm like, are you crazy? But that's the thing. Like, that's just the difference in culture, I guess. I think it's like us Aussies and Canadians. Like, we try not to put up with that bullshit. We got to give people a backhand if they fucking get out of line like that. It's like the place isn't big enough for us to live in unit with your ego.
I mean, it's unfortunate because, like you said earlier, it's all about like the hobby, and it's all about friends and playing with your friends. And like you don't like to most people, you don't want the fame and the ego. You just want respect among your peers. But it's unfortunate that a lot of these peers happen to be caught up in that shit. But let me ask you this, Dwayne, though. Going back to like I guess legit gamer question. Okay, most people think that like Donkey Kong and Pac-Man are like two of the only retro games that have kill screens. Like, what are some of the others? Because there's like I know there's like at least 7 or 10. Because then again, this is just me going by hearsay. I was gonna say, what are the other ones, and like, how many have you gotten?
There's Big Dog, there's Miss Pac-Man, Junior Pac-Man. There is Black Widow, Donkey Kong Jr. So was that Donkey Kong Jr. is 2, Miss Pac-Man, Pac-Man, Junior Pac-Man is 5, Big Dog is 6. Black Widow was 7.
I heard. Does Galaga have one?
Yeah, I think that's all. That's all of them I can think of offhand.
Oh, okay. Cool.
But yeah, no, I was thinking about that myself. Like Pac-Man, Big Dog, Junior, Donkey Kong Jr. But if I tried, I could do this Pac-Man kill screen. It would take a bit, but it wouldn't be a perfect game. But it'd be a kill screen. And then Donkey Kong 2, I can play. Like, I'm about a 500,000 point player, but I just don't care. And then what else? The hardest one is fucking Junior Pac-Man and Black Widow. There's only one. Abner's the only guy in the world to get a Junior Pac-Man kill screen. It takes like about fucking 12 to 14 hours to do.
Jeez.
Yeah, no, and that's not even going for the points. That's just running to the end. If you actually played to go for points, the way they can do it, it would look to be like a 30-hour game or a 25-hour game to get the highest score possible. Yeah. And then the other one is Black Widow. It was done by Jim Valiant, and he's the only guy who's ever been able to do it. And like that is one fucking hard game. It's fast like Robotron and just 2 joysticks like that, and it's so hard. It's like level like 120 or 114 or something like that. Like, and what happens is once you get, because I've done it continuing, but I've never done it on one complete game. He's the only guy, and like his world record 800,000 like is like outrageously high. Like people don't realize how hard that is. And what happens is you finish the last bonus round, and then it goes to some crazy test screen, like an Atari test screen. With your free man and different things like that, when you get a free man and how many credits or gameplay time or whatever like that, and it's red and white vector graphics on the screen when it happens. And like I've seen it, but I've never done it on one quarter.
Hmm. Hey, is Junior Pac-Man? I'm not too familiar with that one. Is it I don't think it's the same game, but isn't there like a Pac-Man that it's half pinball, half arcade?
No, that's the one with the little Junior the Pac-Man there, with the wider screen where it scrolls to the right and scrolls to the left. It's got the bigger maze.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's just like Super Pac-Man. You can marathon that thing even just with one man. And they've got patterns like my buddy Bill Basswell. He's got patterns like Get Every Blue Time thing, like just continuous, like just nonstop. Like, but no, Junior Pac-Man is a hard game. It's like very hard.
Well, yeah, because I don't like players like Abner and Harris, like because Mrs. Pac-Man's like a lot more difficult than regular Pac-Man, correct?
People like Miss Pac-Man. It's a more popular game than Pac-Man, but Miss Pac-Man is like there's like 6 or 7 guys who do kill screens on it. It's a hard game. It's a lot easier now that people can watch other people play, but to figure it out, like it's like there's only been like that's the interesting thing. Like David Race is like. He's this new player that came out like after Rick Fothergill put up all the the Pac-Man perfect patterns and stuff like that, and David Race was the first guy to use those patterns to get a perfect game, and like he's got the fastest time on it now for the perfect game, and he also learned how to play Miss Pac-Man. He's got a kill screen on Miss Pac-Man. He's actually a really good Pac-Man player. And, no, Pac-Man Plus is the other one that actually has a kill screen as well. But he's actually a world record holder on Pac-Man Plus too. Like he's really good at that.
Sweet. Well, let's see. I guess let's go ahead and wrap this up, man, because we've been going over an hour, and unfortunately, my laptop's about to die. But
shit.
That's no problem.
But definitely appreciate you hanging out with us, Dwayne, man.
Oh
yeah. Real quick, like again, we said you can Dwayne Richard on YouTube. You can definitely check out his his channel and his videos he's got out there. But when can people expect from like the Missile Command documentary and your upcoming projects? Like, can they find him on there?
The Missile Command documentary I actually should have done within the next month here. I'm actually close to having it done, and I'm looking at. I'll probably bring it up to the Fun Spots show, and I'm got invited to go to Denver Comic Con in June too. So I'll probably show it there, or do some promoting for them versus Snake anyways. But yeah, once I have it, I'll probably put something. I'll probably try and do a trailer for it or whatever. Because what I was looking at doing is using that Missile Command story to help promote my Iron Man thing, and maybe do a Kickstarter or Indiegogo or something like that to raise some extra funds so I can do a better job on this last story.
Nice, nice. Yeah, people definitely check out his content. Plus, Man versus Snake when that's coming out.
Well, actually, the other thing too, because the other two documentaries I did before that, were with the Pac-Man stuff and the King of Kong stuff, is the one is called The Perfect Fraud Man, and that's about who actually got the world's first perfect Pac-Man score, and it wasn't Bill Mitchell. And then the other one is called The King of Kong, C-O-N, an apostrophe there, exclamation point. That's the other documentary I did to do with King of Kong and a little bit more stuff to do with the Pac-Man stuff and Bill and Walter shenanigans. If they do a search on YouTube on that, the stuff will pop up. They'll find my channel.
Sweet, sweet. Chrono, Alec, our other podcast host, he just joined us a little late, even though we're wrapping up. Chrono, you there?
I'm here. Yeah.
There he is.
Chrono, Dwayne, Chrono.
Hey, how's it going?
It sucks we're wrapping up, man. But you mentioned a Fun Spot earlier, Dwayne, and actually Chrono is the only one of us that's actually been to Fun Spot. He's the one that lives close enough to actually make it there. When is there like normal? Don't they have like a yearly tournament or like event?
Yeah. It's it's the first weekend after Memorial Day, so end of May, beginning of June, and there's actually a lot of players coming up this year again. Like, there's always new people, and there's different people from all around the world that end up going there. But and then the other time we get together at the Fun Spot is in November. We go there for a week or whatever. Robert Newchak, we go out there and play some games and have some fun.
Oh, definitely. It definitely seems like a legit dude. And I would go into. Never mind. I don't. Put it this way, I respect him for leaving Twin Galaxies. I would like to know more about it, but I don't want to get caught up in that. But yeah, Chrono, I know you saying aren't you actually going to Fun Spot sometime in the near future?
Yeah, a few weekends from now. I went last semester with some friends, took some friends of mine up, and they just had such a blast that we're going again. I think the weekend before I graduate. So
not bad.
Or maybe in a couple weekends. We're still trying to hash out
those,
but yeah, I love Fun Spot.
It's lots of fun, and every year they try and bring up some old stuff. So it's kind of cool. People donate stuff there, and yeah, I know you'll see a lot of games you haven't seen before or haven't seen in a long time.
Yeah, it's always nice to go a few times a year. So, but you said that event's the weekend after Memorial Day.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll definitely have to.
Yeah, it's like Fun Spot. I think it's Fun Spot 15 this year. It's actually either 15 or 16. I can't even remember. I think it's 15.
I'll have to look into that because
you should try to make it up for one of those, man.
Yeah,
it's a lot of fun, man. There's lots of people come there intentionally from all over the world to go play, and there's different people setting records or people playing in a contest or whatever like that. It's a lot of fun. You get to meet a lot of cool people, and a lot of times spend more time in the pub there drinking beer. And it's a good because the other thing too. It's NHL playoff time, so. Not that there's going to be a Canadian team in the Stanley Cup Finals this year, but it was funny when I was down there in Boston and Vancouver were playing. Like they had me sing the Canadian national anthem, and that we actually won the first game in overtime there, and everyone was shocked when I jumped up and started screaming. I figured like, oh, I'm in the wrong place. I shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. So I really, I should really look into that. So. Because I'm actually technically closer when I'm at home to Fun Spot than when I am down here at school. So yeah, I'll definitely have to look at that. It's probably only like an hour, maybe an hour 20 away from it. So.
Oh, that's not bad, man.
Yeah.
That's not bad at all. Because hopefully it's mostly interstate.
No, actually it's not. I think it's almost all back roads.
Are you in New York then?
No, I'm in New Hampshire. But
New Hampshire. Oh, okay.
You still have to go like it's still like there's no direct way to get there from where I am, like not on the interstate anyway. So it's like I have to go all through. It's 50 most of the way, but like there's still parts where you're going through towns and stuff where you have to go 30 miles per
Well, yeah,
hour.
because you got to get off. You got to get off the interstate anyways to get to
Yeah.
to get the three where it's on anyways. But yeah, no.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. So.
Well, that's all right.
Yeah. No.
Well, that's cool, man. Thanks. I appreciate you guys giving me a call and asking if I want to be in your podcast or whatever. And hopefully you guys don't get hate mail.
Really?
I was just sorry I couldn't get. I'd forgotten that it was tonight, and I'm just sorry I couldn't be here earlier because would have loved to have chatted longer.
Hopefully, well, something happens in the next couple months, whatever like that, you can always get a hold of me and we can talk about. Like I say, because I think the funniest thing is I think when I can't wait to see Awesome Roy's reaction. Because for all the bullshit and bravado he talks about being a ladies' man, like he's the only guy who let guys suck his cock. So I think he's the one who has the gay tendencies myself.
Oh man.
Well, Carter, I didn't know Nick hadn't seen King of Kong, but you've seen King of Kong. You know who Mr. Awesome is, right?
I'm trying to remember. It's been years since I've seen it. I think it was it had to have been 4 or 5 years ago when I saw it. I don't remember.
He's the.
Well, he was the Missile Command guy. The guy who supposedly was Bill Mitchell's nemesis or whatever like that, and the guy who got TV
I think I know who.
That guy, that freak.
Yeah, the guy in the admiral suit hat or whatever.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That guy.
Yeah, I'll send you because there's a link up there. There's a link up there with the interview that of Roy on Howard Stern.
Mm-hmm.
I'll send you that link and you can listen to it because it's so funny. Like he's sitting there because Howard and the woman there, I can't remember her name, the black woman. I don't remember her name because I don't follow Howard Stern or whatever like that. But they're both asking like, don't you think that's gay? Don't you think that's gay? And he's like, no. Like, don't you think that's gay? No. It's like, well, you're sexually aroused. Don't you think that's gay? No. And I'm like, are you retarded? And it's like, you're trying to tell people, because Howard's like, why is this guy on here again? Why is this guy, because he's supposed to be have this book, or this comic book about himself, how to be a ladies' man or whatever like that. And the only thing he can talk about is how he had some gay Hollywood directors or whatever like that give him a blowjob. I'm like, well, you got some issues, man. You're not paying attention to reality. Like,
hey, Dwayne, everything flies when you're Mr. Awesome. Hey,
yeah, I don't know, man. It's just like, yeah, I don't know. He's awesome, all right.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Crazy, man.
Hey, let me close on this one last thing, though, real quick. Man versus Snake. The poster actually features Don Bluth's art. I was just going to ask you, how does it feel to be as a how does it feel to be on as a fucking Don Bluth character? How's it, how awesome is that?
Yeah, no, I was shocked when that happened because I'm a big fan of Dragon Slayer and Space Ace and stuff like that. And the thing was when I heard that Don Bluth was well, the funny thing is though, like he kept trying to have this bad guy, good guy thing or whatever in his mind or whatever like that. So like, the thing I found so funny, he draws me obese, and he tries to make Tim look like he's not obese. He looked like he's a muscular hero or the man or whatever like that. And then like in all of his art there, when they were showing some of the drawings that he was doing, they tried to make it look like I was like trying to steal like Tim's treasure or something like that. And they kept going like because Don he's old now, and so then they kept trying to tell him it's like Dwayne's not obese. Why do you keep drawing him as he's obese? And so like I sort of made it a mental effort and a physical effort to like lose a bit of weight there, so like people don't like when they see me they realize no, I'm not obese.
That's like, yeah, because I can't think of the villain's name from Space Ace, but yeah, you definitely had the vibes of that guy in there.
Borf or whatever. It's like, yeah, Borf, I think it is.
There you go. Yeah, I noticed some of those qualities in there, but yeah, it was good though. But yeah, like I said earlier, no pun intended, but it definitely is awesome to be fucking Don Bluth art.